Hello and welcome to MetaNights. I'm Loku, a collector of stories, where we tell your story.
My name is David, and my friends have nicknamed me the Marriage Destroyer, because I am a paternity examiner by profession. I've done my own statistics, and I've probably had over 10,000 cases on my hands over the years. The chance of exclusion is about 26% to 28%, that is, almost more than 2,000 families. After getting the results, basically on the verge of marriage breakdown.
David is 38 years old, studied forensic medicine in college, and now works in a paternity test center in Shanghai. As you might imagine, as a paternity examiner, every commission he receives is a family drama behind the scenes.
For 10 years, as a listener and a spectator, I have witnessed countless bizarre stories arising from blood dripping. My main duty is to communicate with my clients. Therefore, when I receive each client, I will first find out why the person is coming for a paternity test. The purpose of doing this is to be able to target him for reassurance and guidance after the identification results. Moncler outlet store Jian's wife is very young, only 30 years old. The previous marriage, the son is already a teenager. After marrying Master Jian, she gave birth to another child. But Master Jian always felt that the child did not look like him. After thinking about it, finally decided to do a paternity test. In this case, he asked who the child really belonged to. The company's main business is to provide a wide range of products and services to its customers. Master Jian used to be a scout, so he is also quite powerful. I remember most clearly that once he took his book out, is a small book. It clearly remembered who was who, and when my wife was talking together, said a few words, and then played mahjong together for how long. Then two people disappear at the same time when the time appeared, how long it lasted, a few minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, his detailed record. It is a very ordinary kind of yellow paper small book. Now I reckon, the bookstore inside is difficult to buy, but before the special kind, an inch of yellow paper, inside is some grid of that small book, about a palm-sized. A book is basically all written by him. After the analysis, we said this really can't be done. Moncler outlet online said that how do you want to be sure? I said it must be to do the identification. Oh. He said okay, that's no problem. After returning home, he spent some time to gather all the materials of these suspicious people. We do not know how he got it. Because like our identification words, it is divided into two kinds. One is the ordinary appraisal, one is the judicial appraisal. Ordinary appraisal means that you take a random test, and then we go to appraisal. After the appraisal, we will give you a result. We only need to be responsible for the examination itself. As for where you get this test from, we do not care about this. But the judicial appraisal is different, must be two signed appraisers together, and then the whole video and photos, including the time to help the results, but also need two people together to sign, on a particularly rigorous. This can be used as evidence, that will not, that is only as a reference. At that time, there should be 5 copies of the appraisal, 4 or 5 copies, which was submitted to me at once. After the appraisal was done, it was found that all of them were okay. I remember that we also gave him a discount, 4 times a lot, at that time should be a discount of 80%. After several identifications without results, Moncler Jackets for Sale Jian went to great lengths to find 4 or 5 more examinations, almost all the people who could be suspected. This includes occasional neighbors, distant relatives, and even a relative's boy who has just come of age. Probably add the next few words, it should be like 3 or 4 months, within 4 months. After doing so, at that time we were bored, and all the people we could suspect were all suspected. Anyway, we will not have a problem with this identification result, then there is only one possibility is to hold the wrong child. The hospital can't say this thing, his wife will be a problem, This time is certainly the hospital's problem, must be the hospital for compensation. The company's main goal is to provide the best possible service to its customers. The actual fact is that the actual person is not a person who is not a person. The thing sounds a bit bloodthirsty and complicated. Identification to go, and finally Jian Moncler outlet found that the child is the wife's so-called older son, and the older son is actually not the wife's son, but his lover. The family did not approve of the relationship, so they ran away and escaped to join his distant relatives. The last time I saw Master Jian, I felt that Master Jian is quite honest and loyal, and then the family also has a little money, so I thought to get together with him in a fake marriage, and then actually secretly with their lover, had sex with their son, so we also thought, hey, this is really what people have. I remember later after the breakup of Moncler outlet online, this thing there is a follow-up, is that he proved that the child is not his, he divorced his wife. After the divorce Moncler outlet online is a particularly kind-hearted person. He knows that this section of the mother and son if the net, it is estimated that it is difficult to go home, it gave more than 100,000. Then the woman, she said I want to fight this gas, I do not want anything, in fact, I look at the feelings, not the other, and then the net out of the family, the two people moved away together. In my 10 years of contact with the client, Moncler Jian is relatively open-minded. In the face of this ethical trauma, most clients will experience psychological problems, need further communication and guidance, so many of the paternity experts will take a certificate of counselor to help clients out of the difficult situation. The impact of a particularly big also have, but his experience is relatively simple, age 34 or 35, and then look ordinary, it may be a glance over, that in is a very ordinary a person. He was a college classmate with his wife before, and the relationship between the two people how to say, it should be said that he has been pursuing his wife, it is particularly good to him. At that time is the same time to pursue his wife also quite a lot of people, the may be that he belongs to the kind of people who can make his wife feel warm, and finally chose him. But later on, life became more and more uneventful after going to work, especially after the birth of the first child. We analyzed that it was probably after the birth of the child, including bringing up the child, and her mother-in-law had some conflicts, which led to a little postpartum depression, just when their classmates had a party, and then she went to attend, in the class reunion with a previous pursuit of her a man met, but according to her looks similar, but we thought maybe he knows how to dress a little, and then a little more sunny. Unlike his husband the same sitting at home every day is not much of a flirt. So the two of them had sex, and when they found out for the first time, he knew that, because when he counted the time, the child was definitely not his own. The first time I found out and then aborted, he forgave. He also knows that he is really sorry to his wife, but also knows that he is especially his mother, may indeed say some words are particularly hard to hear, so his wife a little depressed. But he always thought it was his own responsibility. He thought like this, I will abort the child, we continue to live a good life, after all, there is a child in the family. After a period of time, his wife got pregnant again, and she got pregnant again, and he thought his wife had changed her ways, so the child must be his own. He asked his wife to slowly nurse the baby and give birth to it. The mother wanted a boy, and she had a conflict because she had a daughter, so she always said, why don't you have a boy, you giving birth to a gold-digging family, how about that? After the cheating, another child and a daughter, her mother-in-law scolded even worse. In the end his wife exploded, she said directly, she said why do you not like her, I tell you, she is not necessarily your granddaughter, her husband was bored. She said I can't live this life anymore, I told you this child is not necessarily yours. At that time, she was angry, in fact, she did not necessarily want to divorce him, I guess she did not necessarily understand at that time whether the child was her husband's or not. Her husband heard this and definitely forced her to monitor it. Her husband came with her child, she did not come, and the results of the monitoring is not his. When I asked her about the situation, she said that she was still in contact with the man she used to be with during that time. After the incident, her husband could not stand it anymore and told me that he said, "Why can women do this? How can they do this to me?" And then we analyzed it with him. I said that your wife is definitely more responsible for this matter, but you, including and especially your mother, also have a great responsibility. But he just can't get his head around it. He always thought that his mother has that kind of idea is actually normal, is to want a boy. But in the end, he still could not divorce his wife, so he made a request to his wife. He said, "If you have a boy with me, then the second child, although not mine, but I help you raise." Then in the end, his wife said, "You are such a person, I cannot live with you, I want to divorce you." Then her mother-in-law said, "You can divorce, but you must give birth to a boy. My son may not find a daughter-in-law in the future, so you must give birth to a boy out. After the birth of a boy I immediately let you divorce, otherwise you can never divorce." Because of such words will make a mess in the family, and then everyday quarrel, today big quarrel, the day after small quarrel. To what extent? The noise to their wife's side of the mother's family directly to their trouble. So in the end there was a fight, and even 110 were deployed to dissuade them. This situation is not divorce is impossible, he has been wondering. He said, "I am so good to my wife, I just want him to have a son for me, why would it be so?" After the divorce, his mother kept talking about him. She said, "You are not capable, how come you can't even give birth to a son?" We had an analysis at the time, that if his mother's character did not change, he would probably be harmed by his mother. Later I asked him what he wanted to do, and he said he wanted to die. They were a little depressed. We often say, find a way to find something happy for yourself. For example, what are your hobbies? What did you like to do when you were a child? We will ask this. In this way can actually improve his mental state. But ask him, he said, "I want to die." Like this we can only persuade him. I said, "I know your mentality. If I were you, I also want to die. Through your situation, I may have already committed suicide." I said, "In fact you are much better than me." And then this time he will. Sometimes when he is excited he cried a lot. He said, "I really do not live this life." How the life? He just cried out and got better, but he only got better for a while. You let him go back to his old life. If the family does not cooperate, this kind of person is hopeless. We are not his family, so we can't do anything for him. His mother often asked us what to do with my son, saying, "Doctor, you must do something to save my son." We said repeatedly, "Auntie, you really need to change your character." She said yes, but she never changed. She said, "I also want to change, but when I get to that time, my brain is full of blood. I just look at him, I want to curse." Really, what kind of person is it? When she talked to us on the phone, she cursed and said, "Look at my former daughter-in-law, what's wrong with her? Look at my son, who is a loser, and is being bullied by the whole family." It's not that we can do psychological counseling to help him solve the problem. You must have a family to be with him regularly. You must change this attitude. If you have this kind of attitude, his problem will be bigger and bigger. About 8 years later, he jumped off the building himself. He said, "I have no point in living," and eventually crushed him as his mother's that day and night thoughts.
You're watching MetaNights, and I'm Anchor Loku. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.